Right, so welcome to All for United. We should be live. Everything should be working fine. I'm getting better at this whole starting the show malarkey. It's only taken about 6 months. So obviously we've got John Neville on today, we've got Andrew Wall on today, and we've got a special guest in Hoops, which is a Wolves fan. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm very pessimistic after some of the stuff I've researched today. We're going to jump straight into it. We're going to start with the starting lineups for each team. Are we expecting any surprises? As a Man United fan, and I'm sure Andy and John will agree, no, because we never get any surprises. But it'd be interesting to see Wolves. So we'll start with you, Andy. Do you see any surprises for the starting lineup for us, or do you think, as Ten Hag always does, he's going to go strong, and we're going to see the same lineup possibly against Newport?
I'm going to say he's going to go strong. There's going to be one slight change. Anana's going to be back in goal, so that's definitely the one change. Say Bandy did good on Sunday, but I just think he's going to favour the number one goalkeeper at United. So as I say, my lineup is going to be like Anana in goal. I think it'll be Deleuve, Varane, Martinez, and Shaw. Then I think it's going to be Mainoo and Casemiro again, and then Anthony, Fernandez, Garnacho, and Hoyland. I just don't see Rashford making the starting 11. I think he will be on the bench. But like last time when we was away at Wolves, when he might just come off the bench and score the winning goal. So you never know. But that's the lineup I'm going with. So I think it'll be strong. So just that one change, just the keeper.
Do you, I mean, there's no point in really asking the question. I was going to say, do you think Onana will definitely come straight back in? But he's definitely coming straight
Yes.
back in. Yeah. There's going to be no discussion. John, do you think that's basically going to be the lineup? Probably the same at Newport, other than Onana coming back in, or do you see any
Yeah,
surprises?
no, I think I agree with Andrew. I think he'll put his his usual strongest possible 11 out. I wouldn't be surprised if Ten Hag went to pick Onana up from the airport when he got back from the AFCON. He just seems to be that much of a fan of him. So yeah, he'll definitely be back in, and I think he'll he'll go with his strongest lineup. I know we're obviously playing Thursday night and Sunday. We've got early game on Sunday. The games are fairly close together, but yeah, I agree with Andrew. I still think he'll go with his strongest favourite 11 on tomorrow night.
So Andy, I've asked several people this over the last few weeks. Is his strongest lineup necessarily our best lineup? Because we're not challenging for top four. We're out of the Champions League. We're out of the League Cup. We struggled to get back. Well, I mean, we won 4-2 in the end, but we struggled to get past Newport. And is it his strongest lineup, or do we need to see some changes?
It's looking at our lineup. I don't think it is his best lineup, and probably the lineup I probably wouldn't go with. With all the players, those that have been injured and coming back, I wouldn't necessarily like in the defence. I just think I'd have. Now Maguire's back, but he came on against Newport. But I just think it's too early just to rush him into starting a full game. So I just think easing him back in. But I would like to see Maguire and Martinez together, see if they can form a partnership together. Right back, I'm just with Deleuve and Wan-Bissaka. I just think they both bring different qualities. Whereas Deleuve is probably better in more further forward in the attack. Wan-Bissaka is more better defensively. Just kind of need that combination. Them two players morphed into one, because then they'd be like real good all-round defender that can attack as well. So I'm just thinking midfield wise, that's a tricky one. Mainly is the present and the future of the midfield, but it's just who's going to be alongside him. Casemiro is not going to go on forever. We'll move on, but it's who goes in alongside him. Do we buy somebody in, or is it somebody that's going to come through? I don't know. And then attacking wise, well, Hoyland, he's going to be playing up top, but I'm just thinking at the moment he needs someone alongside him, like an experienced striker, but then you're going to lose one of those other three behind him in the position. So, say we haven't got Nacho in, and then you got Fernandez, but it's just like with Marcus Rashford at the moment, it's just like will he be in the squad tomorrow? I expect him to be, but I don't expect him to be starting. As I said, I think he'll be on the bench. But just as we say with Rashford, we just want to see him return to some good form like he was last season. So it's a tricky one with United at the moment. We're all trying to decide what's the best 11. I think Ten Hag's been trying to work it out for the past 2 seasons. So whether it's different players coming in or using the current squad he's got. So it's just a bit of a minefield at the moment. And say Ten Hag's the one to he's paid to make the decisions and put out a squad that he thinks is capable of winning. So whoever that may be in the side. So yeah, tricky one.
Yeah, I've been saying for a few weeks, well, in fact, for a while, that he's basically going to succeed or die on the hill like the other managers with the players he's picking.
He's stubborn like that, stubborn like last season. He was like, I get what you just want a consistent, play, like 15, 16 players are all getting their game time. Like I say, there is more in the squad, but you want that consistency with the squad as well. So they are getting a good run of form, but just like this season, injuries have just, I say, can be used to an excuse a little bit, but that's not the cause of all of our problems. But it can be pointing to one of the things, but that's not helped us either. And just glad those players, the treatment rooms now beginning to, fill out.
Lighten up.
Lighten up. That was the word I was trying to think of. Say fill out, lighten up. So those players are coming back, and I think for Ten Hag, it's just like the onus is now going to be on him to get the best out of those players that are coming back and those that are in the squad at the moment and get positive results, because we need a lot of positive results in the remaining league fixtures if we were to reach the Champions League spots, which hopefully we can do, but it remains to be seen. So in the fixtures we've got left.
I'll be sure. I mean, very pessimistic already. We're absolutely stunned if we make the Champions. No, I'm being pessimistic. So we'll come to you, mate. I mean, I'm not a Wolves fan, but if I was a Wolves fan, I would be absolutely licking my lips at the thought of playing the same 11 that played against Newport. In terms of, it's just from what I've seen of Wolves this season, you've got a lot of high tempo runners off the ball. And we discussed just backstage about Neto in particular, which I'm not very happy about him being back. Do you expect many changes to the Wolves team that you've seen in the last few weeks? Is there anybody in particular missing? Or do you think you pretty much got a full complement?
Yeah, so I'm expecting an unchanged side because we're obviously performing well. We're in a good run of form. We're coming back off a big derby win for us at the weekend as well. So I'm expecting an unchanged side. If there are changes, there's only really 2 potential changes as I see it. One of the changes potentially is João Gomez. So João Gomez for us has been a starter in centre midfield with Mario Lemina. Gomez has been a very good signing for us, but he's been suspended. So he's now back from suspension. However, in his place has been Tommy Doyle. So Tommy Doyle, you may know from Man City. So I'm sure he would be quite eager to play tomorrow. And it would be quite harsh if he came out the side because he looks a proper player. So that would be one change. The other change, potentially again, would be a player coming back. So Rayne Nouri was away with the African Cup of Nations. So he's now come back. He came off the bench at the weekend. Again, at the start of the season, he was a starter. And I think if he was fit and in a run of games, he would start. So those are the only 2. We've got Hwang still at the Asia Cup, who's our top goal scorer. So that is a big miss, although we're doing okay. And the other player is Boubacar Traoré, who's also away in the African Cup of Nations with Mali. Although he wouldn't have really started this game, to be honest, because we're quite stronger in the centre. So I'm expecting an unchanged side. But you reference, obviously, we've also got a game coming up on Sunday as well. So we're coming off a game on the weekend. So whether or not that's factored in, we've got Neto back, but also we need to be really careful with him because he's had 2 serious injuries in a young career. So he will definitely start, but he may be 60 minutes, for example. just to kind of make sure that we're looking after him. So I would expect an unchanged side. So we'll go with what's been familiar for Wolves with Gary and with Nuno previous, a kind of free changeable 5 at the back. We haven't at this moment in time really got a recognised 9. Hwang potentially is that. So Neto's kind of been playing that role. But to your point, we're quite a counter-attacking side because we've got that pace. We've got a lad called Bellegarde, who you may not be aware of, who's come into the side recently, and we've got Neto, who is undoubtedly probably our star man. So I think in terms of how we'll settle, although we'll be at home and there'll be an expectation for us to be attacking, we quite like sort of that possession-based style. That doesn't really change for us. Bringing teams in because of that ability we've got to counter-attack. So I hear your slight pessimism at the moment, but yeah, from a Wolves camp, we're happy. We've come off a Black Country derby, which is huge for us. So there's a lot of goodwill in the camp at the moment. And if you look at our home record this year, we beat Man City, we beat Spurs, we beat Chelsea. So yeah, we've got a lot of reasons to be optimistic. But there's also that little caveat which kind of hits me and goes, we're coming off a big win the weekend for us, the old classic after Lord Mayor's show. Will they go again tomorrow night? But yeah, I would say Wolves fans are pretty confident because it's a pretty good place for us at the moment. I won't go into too much detail, but just in summary, from where we thought we were going to be to where we're at now, we're certainly, I'd say, above expectations. So we're in a good place at the moment.
I know why you've not gone into detail. I appreciate that. So I have got a good stat for your home form this particular moment. So after losing your first 2 games at home this season, you're now unbeaten in 8, and you've only ever gone on a longer run once than 8 straight wins at home. Well, sorry, 8 unbeaten at home. I think it's 5 wins, 3 draws. So that's one of the reasons I'm quite pessimistic. So I've got some interesting stats, to be honest. So in the last 11 games, we've only actually lost once to Wolves, which made me a little bit happier. However, this game is basically littered in 1-0s, just all over the place, and one goal winning margins all over the place. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. The question I particularly wanted to ask in terms of the way you play football, because obviously I watch a lot more Man United than I do Wolves. Do you have the ability to overrun the midfield? So one of the biggest issues for Man United this season is we leave an incredible amount of space in the middle on the break. Do you think Wolves will be able to exploit that if we do it again?
I think potentially. I think the way our midfield is set up, typically when you have a Lemina and a Gomez, they're very workmanlike. They're not so much your creative type players, but they put a shift in. So how we tend to set up is we pretty much have those 2 kind of staying in, and then because we've got those players out wide. So yeah, potentially. I think our centre midfield is probably arguably our strongest point at the moment. I think Lemina Gomez has got undoubted ability, and again Tommy Doyle as well. So we're quite, I would say, quite narrow, quite tight in the midfield. So there is potential for that. And as I say, I think what that does is those players in particular, those 2 are the enablers. And they give the freedom to the likes of Neto and Bellegarde to be a little bit more creative. So yeah, potentially.
So I mean, Andy, the way that he's talking here, they very much play like Solskjaer used to play, with 2 players that sit and sort of did a job and let the wingers and forwards break quickly if the opportunity was there. Are you worried about what we've seen in terms of the space in midfield? Do you think that's going to be a problem for us tomorrow? How does Ten Hag correct it? Like, even with Casemiro, Mainu, and Fernandes in the 3, we still left far too much space.
Like same against Newport, and I mean the if I remember, the second goal was like they just ran through the midfield and then through the defence. And was like, you can't keep leaving this space open. And I'm just like, and Ten Hag's probably seeing it, but the players should be, picking this up amongst each other. Going, look, we've got to correct this issue as well. So that's what I'm fearing tomorrow. Is like the Wolves going to overload our midfield, but we've got to be literally on it from the first minute because, let's say, that's where the battle's going to be won the most in the midfield. Like these games have never been goal fest, but it's always come down to ending in either a draw or by a 1-goal margin win. Even the reverse game at Old Trafford back in August, Wolves made it really tough for us, and they probably should have won, but we just grinded it out. And thanks to Rafa's Ran's header, but they're giving us the victory. Obviously, controversially at the end, and honouring the penalty that wasn't or should have been. So, but with this midfield, I just think, how does Ten Hag change it? It's a good question. I know the midfielders we've got, but you could also, technically, Martinez can move into the midfield, so he could give that more solidity to it as well. But I know it's possible if you wanted to do a formation change, and this is can move like to a diamond, like a 4-1-2-1-2, but it allows you to fit like the likes of Casemiro, Eriksen, McTominay, Mainu, even Fernandes behind the two strikers. But what you lack then is, mobility in the wide areas, but you're kind of sacrificing one for the other. So it's just trying to strike that balance at the minute. And I don't know where it's going to come from at the moment. I was going to say on Vicky's comment saying about finishing the season before casting Casemiro aside.
I have got this starred because I was going to ask this.
Yeah, and I'm thinking in 3 or 4 years' time, do I still see Casemiro still at United? No, because United will have to move on. As much as I love Casemiro and I value the experience he's brought, and I think Mainu's going to learn a lot off him in the second half of this season. So, as I say, but we're going to have one eye on the future as well. It's, somebody to play alongside Mainu as well. So, love Casemiro, and it'll be sad to see him go when he does, but he has brought a lot to this United squad as well. Okay, this season injuries are preventing him playing as many games as he should have, and at times in games where we kind of need him, to do that work, reading the game and cutting out passes or putting in tackles as well. So that's one thing we've kind of missed in certain games, where he's been in those spaces where the opposition have countered us on, and but say Casemiro will be around for a while yet. So not casting him aside just yet, but to say it's always the one. Midfield has been the one area in the last 3 or 4 years we've been just like trying to decide what's the best route to go down. We've still not quite figured it out yet.
I'm glad you mentioned youth and experience there, because I was looking at, so basically on the show last time, me, Vicky, and John had a little bit of a disagreement. So I went back and watched the Newport game, and I noticed that like the lineup was quite a lot younger than I thought at the time. So our average age of the lineup at the minute is about 25.5, which I think is quite a decent age to be building from, as long as you're mixing youth and experience. So we'll move to John for the next part. We'll go on to part 2, and part 2 is danger men. So basically, it's a simple question, John. From the Wolves team, maybe 1 or 2 players, who are you most worried about that could cause us the most problems?
I think it's, as we've sort of touched on earlier, the guy Neto with his pace. Anybody that seems to be sort of making runs with any pace through the midfield, we do seem to struggle with, as we've been caught out previously, like the goal at Forest seems to ring a bell. Where we sort of got caught out from having a shot, on their goal, and then they go up the other end and score. So, yeah, they've got to sort that out in terms of, dangerous runners from midfield. That's without a doubt. So, I think they've got to get somebody in there in the midfield that can do like a man marking job on Neto for sure.
Yeah, I think Neto was one of my two. I said backstage, not happy that he's back. I can remember at the start of the season, I think it was the start of the season, he was on absolute fire. I had him in my FPL, and then he got injured, and then he dropped out. And he's been a massive miss for Wolves this season. He brings so much for them. So we'll come to you last, Andy. So, Hoops, who do you think from the United team could cause Wolves the most problems? You can name one or two players. In fact, if you could manage to name one, that would be impressive.
Yeah, no, it's like you said earlier. We're so ingrained with our team, aren't we? It's you're far more qualified on that. And as I say, the kind of only 90 minutes game I've seen this season is that game at Old Trafford earlier on. But then you look at the history, and I know, as I say, there's a contentious issue with Rashford, as I understand. But ultimately, Rashford obviously has that ability. That probably our strikers don't always show. And it seems to me, and as I say, this is only my opinion, there's flashes from Anthony, there's flashes that we've seen from Rasmus. So that it's that consistency, isn't it, really? But on a one-off game, which is kind of more I'm concerned about than you are as a long term, there's absolutely undoubted talent. We all know the talent that Fernandes has when he's on song and he orchestrates things. But then I've also seen him kind of, when things aren't going for him, hide a little as well. You'll know that more than I will. So, look, you've got absolutely talented players. That's undoubted. I think it's more a fact from ourselves. It's just continuing this form. We've got a small squad, and we've had a run of fixtures, so it's kind of making sure that we're not fatigued. But O'Neill will obviously be aware of your dangers, but those players in particular, we're just hoping that they have an off night, because some of the players that you have in your side can be out of the game, and then they can, what I've seen, spring a surprise with a long range effort from nowhere, from Anthony, for example. So we'll absolutely have to be on our guard.
Yeah, we need more players in our team to show a little bit more consistency in terms of performance. Unfortunately, I mean, Andy might agree, might disagree. We've seen Fernandes far too often this season not where he should be, and that has undoubtedly caused us issues in terms of lack of creativity and just wasted talent. To be honest, there was something. It's completely off topic, but something came up about Mata, and someone put about Juan Mata, and it said, "Can you imagine if we signed Mata in his prime?" We did. We signed Mata in his prime, and then stuck him on the right wing for 4 seasons and absolutely ruined his career when he should have been in the middle, dictating absolutely everything for us. And I just hope we haven't done the same with Fernandes, because I've seen his stats today. Something like 212 games, 79 goals, 53 assists. It's absolutely ridiculous, his record. So from your point of view, Andy, if you could pick someone other than Neto, who are you worried about in the Wolves side that could cause more problems if we don't keep them quiet?
I was going to say Gomez is a miss for them, but it's probably Mateus Cunha, he's finding form in front of goal at the moment, and he's proved a thorn in our side when the teams met at Old Trafford. So looking at his stats so far this season, so 6 goals, 5 assists, 22 chances created this season, so and 24 of those have been on target. So if you kind of, the one player you don't not get the ball to his feet, because he will hit it and land it on target. So hopefully, and on as come back from AFCON, and now he's ready for it, because don't want to be letting even more goals in. So he's definitely one player we've got to watch out for, because, and also I think, as I said, our midfielders got to keep Wolves at bay, and that's going to be down to Manu and Casemiro, and that'll be vital for us. And I just think for Wolves, their success is down to the team being greater than the sum of its parts, working as a whole team together. And I just think for our success tomorrow evening, I think it might come down to Garnacho as well, because he's been in good form recently, and I mean his ability to stretch, defenses as well could be the key, and our source of attack tomorrow. So yes, Garnacho probably for us, and then Matthijs Cunha for them as well. So yeah, we've both got danger men that can change the game. I think you're muted.
I am muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Keep going on there. I was thinking, is it me or am
No.
I just not hearing anything?
you're not. Yes, it's my fault. It's because I'm mute, so I don't interrupt people. Yeah. So I was saying about Cunha. I was really worried. I had him and Neto down as my two that were basically our biggest issue. And I can remember the game at Old Trafford. Cunha basically ran the show. He kept running past everybody constantly, and he would just. I thought he'll get tired. He can't keep doing this. He's going to get tired. And he was still doing it in the 82nd minute. And I'm going, he's going to get tired. He's not going to be able to carry on doing this. And he, just like an absolute engine, just carried on. So he, for me, he's one of the players, and this is where my pessimism comes from. We're going to have to keep him quiet. We need to get a grip of that midfield, because if we let him run riot like we did at Old Trafford, then we're going to be in for a long evening. I wanted to ask Hoops a question, actually, because we haven't seen much of Wolves this season. Who's been the standout player for you this season? Because I mean, you're having a very good season by most accounts. We'll move on to O'Neill next and talk a little bit about O'Neill after this. But who do you think's been a really standout player for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, Mateus Cunha has been excellent. Absolutely, I think someone will quote me on this if it's wrong, but I'll go with it. He might have 6 in 12 or something like that, or he's been definitely involved in assists, and he's sort of adding goals to his game. But as you say, you're right on that first game. There was him and I think Nunes who went to Man City. We haven't missed at all. Who sort of a ball carriers effectively. So he's got that ability. He was signed for some big money, in fairness, back in January. Lopetegui brought him in and had a bit of a slow start, but this season he's kind of showing his potential. Neto, yeah, absolutely. As you referenced, he started the season really well, and then there was a huge sort of gasp where he got injured again, because we thought, oh no, shit, it's going to happen again. But he's come back, and Neto is an undoubted talent. I'm always balanced. I'm not biased, but he's very good. He's got the world at his feet. Pedro Neto is. The only saving grace, I guess, of his injury is maybe that we kept hold of him in January, and I expect him to when the window closes tomorrow. But I think he might go in the summer. But that's kind of the plan with Wolves as it stands at the moment, where we sold Neves last summer for a lot of money, and we'll just reinvest. So, we don't want him to go, but he potentially will. So Neto, but Mario Lemina is a great player, a great character. I think he was, how can I put this? There wasn't a big sort of clamour when he signed, because people saw him at Southampton and he went to Italy and were like, what sort of player we get him? But there's a real maturity with him there. So, I would say in terms of standouts, Lemina's been excellent as that sort of holding midfield player. Pedro Neto, Hwang, who we're missing, is already in double figures. And we couldn't score it all last year. And that's really helped us. But there's some really good players. It's a really decent side. There was a bit of concern, I think, from the outside looking in at the start of the season, and I get it, because ultimately, a few days prior to playing your good selves, we were without a manager, so of course there's uncertainty. But this is a good side. If you look at the players, this is a good side. The players that have been built up over the years, you likes of Nelson Semedo, Joe Gomez, who's come in, Pablo Sarabia, who we brought from PSG. These are very good players, a lot of them with international caps and European experience. So we may lose 1 or 2 a year, like the likes of Neves and Diego Jota, for example. But if you keep that nucleus and always look at re-establishing, then I don't think it seems a bit bold from where we were. We shouldn't be on the fringes of where we were a few years ago of the Europa places, because I think that the players are good enough. We're just missing, I would say, an out-and-out 9, a little bit more strength in depth, and I think we need to be fortunate with injuries, which we have done so far, so we might fall a little bit short. And obviously we've got the financial fair play issues where our previous manager decided he didn't want to carry on because the finances were cut. However, if you look at Everton, if you look at Notts Forest now, that was probably the right decision. So yeah, sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but in summary, yeah, so far this season, your Netos, Laminas, but I could name so many of them because, to your point, we've had a good season for where we probably expected to be.
Well, I think you're all pulling in the same direction. The games I've watched, Wolves, everyone's running for each other. Everybody seems to know what they do and they understand their jobs. I don't ever see, when I watch Wolves play, I don't ever really see many, I'm going to say the word tantrums. Players, even if players get it wrong, there seems to be a lot of team members getting behind each other, not throwing the hands up in the air and pointing where they want the ball and stuff like that. They just seem to be, we know where we're going, this is what we're doing, and I think that's perfect. So, John, I'm going to come to you, mate, because NT's made a couple of points here. So we've got, I'm hoping Casemiro with the game under his belt will be more on it versus Wolves and make our midfield a bit more solid alongside Mainu. It also doesn't help that it's the first time those three played together, and this was the point I wanted to come to. So against Newpoint, it was the first time we've seen Mainu, Casemiro, and Fernandes. Casemiro is key for me to this. So are you hoping the same as NT? Are you hoping that now he's got a game under his belt, he can sort of get back to his best? Because people forget he's been injured this season. Without Casemiro last season, we wouldn't have finished in the top 4. He really was that important for us. So are you hoping to see Casemiro come back to his fighting fit? And do you think he can do it for us?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he's not had any luck with injuries. Been out most of this season so far. I think, when he first came into the team early last year, he like I say, he was instrumental. And I think now that he's hopefully fully fit, I think we'll get some good performances from him for the rest of this season now. I think that was sort of, like you say, with the cup game last week, just to sort of, get him a bit of match sharpness back and get him bedded in, and then hopefully he'll be he'll be in there every game now, hopefully for the rest of the season. And I think with one or two of the others that have come back as well, it might just galvanise us, and we'll find a bit of that form that we had last season.
Yes, because I mean, again, on the last show, I sort of said, and I've rewatched the game. Casemiro was the worst player on the pitch for me by a distance, and I think that is to be expected when you're coming back from such a long injury, etc. And it's not me necessarily writing Casemiro off at Man United or anything like that. It's just that you sort of need these players to really hit the floor running. You can't afford to carry your big stars. So you see with loads of teams like City and Liverpool and Arsenal, they can afford to keep the spine the same and make changes around it. And we've just not been able to do that this season because the spine's just not there. So it's sort of just been all over the place. So now we've got Casemiro, Martinez, Varane, and they're all coming back in. We need that to stay the spine of the team for the rest of the season. I mean, it looks like that's where all the eggs have gone, Andy, in terms of we're seeing some of the transfers that we're making, the players that are leaving. He's sort of putting his eggs in the same 13 to 14 players and hoping that they can be fit till the end of the season. I've sort of noted that if we get an injury to one or two of our wingers now, with Pellistri going as well, we could be in a little bit of trouble on the wings if we pick up any injuries. So we've got to hope that these 1 games a week really do help us between now and the end of the season. I wanted to move on to Gary O'Neill, and we'll start with you, Andy. So what I've got written down here, whether it's right or wrong, I'm pretty sure it's right. I've done some research, I promise. If Wolves win, they go above us on goal difference. And that is, I think it shows how bad we are or have been this season. But that's impressive for Wolves. It puts them into the top 10 above Manchester United. And I can't remember where I put them in the league. I'm trying to find the table that me and Barry predicted, but I don't think I had them for relegation, but I think I had them about 15th. So they're doing a lot better than I thought. When O'Neill went in, I can remember the job he did at Bournemouth was quite good, but I was still unsure. I think his name is because his name's Gary O'Neill and not like Gary Martinez. Oh, what do you know what I mean? It's because it's not fancy. But just how impressed have you been with Gary O'Neill this season?
I mean, when he came, he literally had no time. Well, the first game of the season, he literally had a few days there, and I'm just thinking, I did worry for Wolves a little bit. I thought Lopetegui go, and I thought what he did for them towards the end of last season, keeping them up. I just thought then he had the disputes with the board over the direction the squad was going to go, and in terms of funds as well. So I was like, it was just a bit of a surprise at the start of the season that all happened. And I thought for Gary O'Neill, I thought, this Wolves side might just struggle a little bit. And in the early on games, they would like just getting caught out, and losing their games and decisions not going their way, like VARs. And to be fair, some of those decisions should have been in their favour as well. And I just think, that team's now settled there under his management style. They're, defensively stubborn. They're excellent in the transitions, and I just think, they're unbeaten in the last 8 Premier League home games, and they've only had a longer run that. Only once enjoyed a longer run than that in the competition. You just think, their home form has just been really good, and we're going to face a stiff test under those Molineux lights tomorrow. And I just think another stat I read as well earlier, it's like since December the 5th, they've got the second most points in the league, and I think Liverpool are the only ones that have got a little more. So, as Hoop said that earlier, they've beaten City, Chelsea, Tottenham. So they'll be looking to add us to the list, and I'm hoping it's not going to be the case. But I've been impressed with Gary O'Neill. I just think what he did at Bournemouth, and I think was all a little bit surprised when Bournemouth let him go. I was thinking there was a chance for Bournemouth to go on, another level. And obviously they're doing all right this season under their new manager. But I just thought at the time when he was gone, I was like, well, I probably thought Bournemouth were one of the favourites to go down after losing Gary O'Neill. So, yeah, I'm just saying with Gary O'Neill, he's done a brilliant job so far. And it'll be interesting to see where Wolves finish at the end of the season, whether they get back into the top half of the table as well.
What about you, John? How impressed have you been with Gary O'Neill this season? I mean, he's definitely surpassing expectations. And like Andy says, literally a couple of days before the start of the season, he's in at Wolves. And I can't say that many people would have said so many games into the season, you beat Man United, you go above them.
Yeah, they've been absolutely brilliant, I think. Certainly, even like that first game of the season at Old Trafford when he'd only been there a couple of days, Wolves, they played really well in that game, and they were very unfortunate not to get a point, if not more, in that game, and they just seem to have gone on from there. Really, they just seem to got better as the season's gone on, and they seem to be on an upward trend. I mean, I can remember watching the game when they played Chelsea at home. I think it was around Christmas time, and I was really impressed with the performance of them that day. So yeah, we need to be very, very wary of them tomorrow night, definitely.
Yeah, so I was thinking back to the Wolves game at the start of the season, and I was trying to remember it all day, and it was obviously the Onana incident, wasn't it, where he absolutely cleans out the striker and they don't get a penalty. So yeah, we was really lucky to get the win, in particular that game. So Hoops, obviously this is why you held off speaking earlier. Has O'Neill surpassed the expectation of yourself?
Yeah, he has. I think I agree with the points made. In the summer, there was a lot of frustration because the context, if it helps your listeners, with Lopetegui, he was actually the owner's first choice. So before we brought Nuno in, we always wanted Lopetegui. He was sort of number one choice, and we gave Lopetegui the biggest contract we've ever given a manager. And it was kind of like, right, we're behind this guy, massive pedigree. You'll know his pedigree: Real Madrid ex-manager, Spain ex-manager, Europa League manager, and you're right, we were bottom at Christmas, but let's not forget that Christmas was a little bit different last year with the international break and stuff. But we were. So, you know, he did a good job to get us out the mire, absolutely. And he was a very charismatic manager. So we kind of went from the Europa League winner to the guy who was, fans, including myself, and I was on record, was a little bit underwhelmed and a little bit frustrated with the board, because I thought, hang on, you've backed Lopetegui, you brought him in, and then the goalposts have changed. And you know, but then also the more I started to think about it, I thought, well, Lopetegui obviously doesn't back himself that much as a manager. He's let his ego get in the way if he doesn't believe this team is good enough. And I think actually what's happened with O'Neill, this is my comparison, is with Lopetegui, it felt like he was doing us a favour, whereas with O'Neill, we've got a manager who actually is privileged to be at Wolves, because with respect to Bournemouth, this is a huge club, and he's still very much new into his career. So he's looked at it and gone, oh my God, I've been given this club. And he's really got into that. And I think he's got into the players to say, you know, that last guy, he didn't want to stick around, but I believe in you. And I think the point you made earlier, that mentality's gone into play as well. So it's endeared a lot of fans to us. I mean, football's a strange game. We didn't have a great start, although, so we had some awful decisions against us, but we went out in the League Cup against Ipswich, and there were fans going, oh my God, get rid of him. You know, online they were saying, we've got a PE teacher in charge. You know, there was some real harsh criticism of him. But I think the turning point was probably the Man City game. And the fact that he's endeared himself to the club. He's a very likeable guy. You know, you may have seen him on Monday Night Football, and that could have backfired. But what I think it did as a PR campaign for him was show that he's a very articulate manager, a very thorough manager, and very, very likeable. So I'm delighted, because as a fan who loves my club, I want a manager who feels like it's a privilege to manage this club, and that's the feeling that you get with him. And I think we've got some ambitious players. So at the moment, it feels like a great harmony. So I think that expectation has probably worked in his favour. The test will be the summer. The test will be, no, you can sign some players, and you know, that's second season. But yeah, he's very well liked because he's winning football matches, but also I think he just comes across as a decent bloke as well, and that goes a long way. So I think that the fans are absolutely behind him.
Yeah, we know all about a manager being called a PE teacher when he actually is a very good manager, and people just overlook it. I've had many rants about that. I'm glad you've put it in the way you've put it, because I wanted to ask John and Andy in particular about Ten Hag and some of his comments recently. And I tend to feel like I'm coming across as Ten Hag out whenever I'm on here, because I'm quite critical of him, but I don't mean it in a Ten Hag out kind of way. But when you see him say stuff in the media like, now we're getting the players back, the harmony of the squad will improve, etc. will improve, all that's saying to me is he's showing the squad of players that he doesn't think they're good enough and he doesn't trust them. And this is why we end up with players that, and I'll use Palistri as an example because I've been defending him today online. There's many people that sat there going, well, I'm glad he's gone because he's not good enough. He's not shown enough. He's been given 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes at the end of games. He got one start against Bayern Munich, 63 minutes. That's not good management. No matter which way you look at it, you're sort of like segregating your squad into players that I really want and I'm going to play every week. And I've just got a bit of something over there that I can use if I'm absolutely desperate. Do you think Ten Hag sort of maybe needs to be a little bit more willing to try something new and maybe put a little bit of faith outside the box? Like, I understand that he's got his favourites. The only thing I can say about Palistri is we saw Anthony drop stinkers for 29 games this season, and Palistri couldn't get any minutes. And we're seeing it with Ahmad as well. So Ahmad's back now. He had a cameo of 7 minutes where he looked much better than Anthony and even Garnacho on the day. He looked like he was a little bit more fluid in the tactics. We've not seen him since. He didn't even get on against Newport. So we'll go to John first. Do you think there's an improvement that Ten Hag could maybe look around the managers in the league, some of them with the more successful squads fighting for each other, and maybe integrate players better to make them feel a little bit more at home?
Yeah, like I say, he seems to have this sort of favourite sort of 12 or 13 players that sort of, pretty much play the whole of most of the games, and then anybody sort of that's not in that sort of group, any of them that like the younger players or players that are like coming through out of the academy, they seem to get, like you say, the odd minute here and there, and other than that, and some of them don't even get a look in at all. So yeah, I don't think it's probably not doing the squad as a whole a great amount of encouragement. It is disappointing that some of these other players don't seem to be given any opportunity, even when we've sort of played lower league opposition and things like that. So I do think Ten Hag, he is sort of setting himself up for a bit of a fall in that regard, because a lot of these players that have been playing most of the season, like you mentioned, Anthony, and you could perhaps mention McTominay there as well. One or two others that have sort of played a lot of games and probably not really performed to the level that we would perhaps expect or hope to. So yeah, it's definitely frustrating that we've not seen more of some of these other players in the squad.
The reason why I put it like that, Andy, in particular, is we saw Gary O'Neill on Monday Night Football. I've seen two like football insights in the last 6 months, and one was Sean Dyche just before he went to Everton, and I can't explain to you what he did with these little dolls on a bit of paper showing how he likes to play football, and how fast Everton implemented that in the first game was absolutely ridiculous. And it just shows that you're in the Premier League for a reason as a manager. You're obviously very talented, so I don't buy into sometimes it's about luck more than anything. But the reason I ask is because Owney is such a good manager, and we've seen him on Monday Night Football explain. He goes into the finer details. He knows as well as we know what our starting 11 is going to be, and surely you're giving a big advantage. Like if he was playing really well and they should be scared of us, it would be different. So if he was going to go and play City, he'd know City's 11, but they still might not be able to stop it. When you know our 11 so easy, surely Gary O'Neill has got a bit of a one hand up here, because we're not playing fantastic. We're struggling. He knows where the spaces are going to be. So is there an argument that Ten Hag just needs to throw a surprise into a manager? So O'Neill goes tomorrow, oh, balls, we didn't think Ahmad was going to start this game. And now Ahmad started the game. It's going to be something different, so it's not as predictable.
Yeah, maybe you can throw a few surprises in, but as you said, Ten Hag, well, even for the last, for the last month or so, or pointing to the month of January as the moment that our season can get back on its right track. And I mean, yes, this season we've, it's been an injury ravaged campaign, but yes, that's one excuse you can make. It's not the be all and end all. Like example, Martinez, he's key to Ten Hag, and the side playing out from the back, and his calm nature and quality on the ball. And you could argue he's been one of our biggest losses as well. He's missed more than 3 months of action, and Ten Hag said, so often we've had to change the team because of injuries, and as he said, you don't get the routines. With football, it's a solid performance and consistency, which we haven't had this season. And you just got to look at the performances and results since the beginning of the season. Yes, Ten Hag's had a limited squad to choose from, and it's been one of his go-to defences. And in some ways, you can't blame him for that. But now those players are returning, the treatment room's empty, and it's just now the margin for error is shrunk. So, and I mean, starting tomorrow night, it's almost like we've got to be a bit faultless, and right, in Ten Hag's case, prove that he was right, calling for patience. I mean, as he's saying, for the first time, you can pick a team from a squad that is, the strongest, he's got all the players back, but as we did against Newport and, stuttered, looked like we was comfortable at 2-0, and I just thought we'll go on and get 3 or 4, and that was with a strong team as well. So, going forward, he's got to make that strong team get good results in front of the Ineos people as well, and Sir Jim Radcliffe. So it's just, with Ten Hag, he's got a lot to prove now. So I'm just thinking those players, he's got to get a tune out of those players, because I just don't want them end up throwing him under the bus, because that's happened to previous managers and under Solskjaer, and I was like, I just don't want that happening again, because I just think we can't go around this vicious circle all the time. We do well, it goes downhill, replace the manager. Look, it's gonna have to take time. I look to our rivals Liverpool, like Jurgen Klopp. In the first few years, it was inconsistent. They were up and down, and it was just like, this project will deliver the results in the end, and it did for them. So I just think, we've just got to be a bit patient, as Ten Hag has said. So Rome was not built in a day.
Yeah, the frustrating thing for me is, I agree with you've got to give him a chance to build, etc. You're like, we've had quite a few injuries, but like when I look around the league and I see injuries happen at other clubs, like Spurs in particular, and even when they went to 9 men against Chelsea, they still played the same way. You still saw the pattern. You still saw what they were doing. Like Liverpool today, they've brought that Bradley in for Trent, and he scored, and he looks some player, and it's like, it's hard to explain, but it's like Ten Hag is making the appearance of Man United seem like it's bigger than it is, because he's making players work hard for it. And I get it in an aspect of, it is a massive to wear the Man United shirt, and you shouldn't just be gifted a cap. But when we've brought in Reguilon on loan as a left back, and then got rid of a young lad that's been really good in Fernandes, who now we've sold to Benfica, why didn't we just play Fernandes and see what happened? Do you know what I mean? And back him. I wanted to ask you, Hoops, from a complete outsider, obviously a Wolves fan, what have you made of Ten Hag and United this season from the outside? It's a difficult question, but somebody asked me last week, they asked about the shoots of recovery. Do you see the shoots of recovery, or do you still see a club that's a little bit mismanaged?
I don't know. It's difficult from the outside. I think from I guess as a neutral, there's been points in the season where I thought it's gone. You've had some performances, and I thought they might pull the plug, and to kind of tie to Wolves connection. I know, our ex-manager has been linked with yourselves in the past, so there's been times where I've kind of looked at it from that angle and thought, is he gone? But you seem to kind of pick yourselves up and get a result, and whether or not that papers over the cracks, I don't know. But I think, from what I see is a football club internally. You've got some recent, obviously, disciplinary issues that goes on at every club, but it's heightened at a club like United, isn't it? Because of how high profile you are. And then, I'm acutely aware of, the issues off the pitch with the Glazers and the protests and so forth. Yeah, I guess if I was to talk about United with a group of mates in the pub, would go, that's a club that looks a little bit chaotic and a little bit like, but then also never too far away from also being successful as well. So it just doesn't. It seems a little bit unhinged from where I see it, and I think it needs someone at the helm who's, yes, a disciplinarian, and to have all authority and kind of crack the whip, because I think that is important. But also, you're dealing with so much. He must be dealing with the pressure from outside, internally. Players not doing many favours by going in the papers and so forth. So I think you need the right type of character and personality. And and you kind of need to find your way, because it just, from as I see it, just seems at times a little bit of a soap opera. It seems prime for your next Netflix special, to be honest.
Yeah,
That's how I see it. But as I say, that's just my stance from what I know.
I think you're spot on. It's like we're in the middle of a Netflix documentary that's going to be coming out in a year, and it's going to be the best watched thing on TV ever, because it's just an absolute shit show, like inside and out. There's just so much going on. I feel this is why I would much prefer Ten Hag be back than him leave, is because we've seen so many players just act like they're not at Manchester United over the last few years, act like they're at a completely different club, not of the stature of Man United, and then he's had to deal with Anthony, him who shall not be named, Rashford, Ronaldo, and it's just absolute madness that one manager's had to deal with so much in 2 years. It reminds me a little bit of when Arteta came into Arsenal, a little bit different, but he had all the like Lacazette, Aubameyang, he had all these big earners, big star players causing grief, and they needed just a big reset and to back him. So I hope he gets the backing. John, we're going to move on to Man United's current away form, and this is very concerning. We've lost three of the last 4 games. A 0-0 draw against Liverpool. We've scored 1 goal in 4, and that was against Forest. And in those games, this is, again, another fantastic stat, by the way. United have failed to lead for a single minute in the last 4 away games. Only 20th place Sheffield United and 18th place Luton Town have spent less time ahead in the Premier League this season. That is grim. Absolutely grim. So 20th place Sheffield United and Luton are the only teams that have had less time in the league, in the lead this season in the Premier League. The first goal in this game is going to be massive, isn't it? With that record, with Wolves' home record, with the history of this fixture in the last 10 or 11, it literally is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, with the way these games between the two teams seem to go in recent years, and like I say, our sort of tendency to concede first and not sort of be able to recover very well when we do. Yeah, it's going to be you think it's going to be very, very decisive who does score first. So you can perhaps see us being very cautious in our approach, perhaps. Certainly,
I genuinely hope not.
The first half.
I think if we're cautious in any way, Wolves are going to eat us alive. Honestly, if we go into that game like a bit weary, which I mean we possibly could because of the record, I just think they're going to be on us straight away. So having said that, score predictions, John.
I'll go for a 1-1 draw. I think I know I forget what we've been saying, but I think like I say, it's just all down to who scores first, really, I guess. But for some reason, I think I can see it end up being a draw for some reason. I don't really know why, but I think it could end up being that we perhaps manage to nick a late one or something like that and scrape a point.
John's going for 1-1. What about you, Hoops? What do you think? Do you think home advantage?
Possibly. I'm tempted to go with John and look at a draw. I know we've talked about the context of our home record, and we've got absolutely every reason to be confident with the sides that we've faced this year and the results that we've got. But I also I've watched this team for a long time, and there's that sort of part of my brain which is going, well, actually we might fall a little bit short. And I've got respect for United, and a draw isn't the worst result in the world at all. But I don't know. I'd say 1-1, but I think I'm going to stick my neck out. I agree. I don't think there's going to be a lot in the game. Then, yeah, taking on the form that we've had this year, I'll go for a 2-1 Wolves win, I think.
I like how he convinced himself mid-sentence. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Dave has gone for 1-0 win or 2-0 what we're going to do for him. Hoyland and Garnacho scoring. That would be nice. I would snap your hand off for that now. Come on then, Mr. Wall. What are you saying?
As we said, we've struggled away from home and obviously not made any inroads in the transfer market this month, but were we expecting anybody to come in? No, we weren't. So, yes, Ten Hag will be, say, hoping for a positive result to start the month, against Wolves. And I think record, we haven't lost, haven't lost Premier League game in the month of February since 2018. So we're unbeaten in 22 matches in the month of February. So another record. Hopefully we don't lose, but this season records have tumbled for United, and I just think, it's just going to be a tricky game for us. And the same matches between both sides, they haven't been goal fests in recent times. I think it was 13 out of the last 14, have ended in draws or decided by a 1-goal margin. I think that could be the likely outcome tomorrow even. And like I say, Wolves, they do boast impressive home record at the moment, but I just feel like, we just have the ability to just grind out the results when we need them, and we have done in the last 3 away games at Molineux. So I'm going to go the 1-0 to United. That's what I see it as, and hopefully, I think he'll be on the bench, Marcus Rashford, and I think maybe he comes on and scores the winning goal. Because stat I was reading earlier, he scored 7 Premier League goals on a Thursday, and that's only been better by Harry Kane. So maybe, just maybe, it's Rashford's night tomorrow night if he comes on.
Tell you what, you're just out here stealing all my stats. I had both of them written down.
Sorry.
So another stat for you. Something to do with we've won 9 of 10 games this season by 1 goal, which sounds about right, to be fair, from what we've watched. NT's gone for 3-1. No one's expecting it. Rasmus 2 and Garnacho 1. NT, do you realise that means Rasmus would then have doubled his tally in 1 game for the Premier League this season? So I'll be impressed if that happens. A, will the wingers cross to him? And B, will he come and get on the ball a little bit more, which he needs to start doing? So I'm going to go... I'm honestly feeling so pessimistic about this, and it's just because I don't see on what planet Man United keep a clean sheet. I can't see it from anywhere. Like, we just seem to be shipping goals. It's that gap in midfield that I've banged on about for about 15 shows, which if Ten Hag could fix it so I can stop talking about it, that would be fantastic. I think we're going to lose. I think it's going to be 1-0 to Wolves. I think it's going to be a close game, as per usual. I just don't see us keeping a clean sheet. With Onana coming back in, with everything that's going off, I think, unfortunately, we're going to lose 1-0. So, with the predictions out of the way, I just had 2 short topics to cover before we disappear. I'm just going to quickly touch on the Rashford thing. Obviously, Hoops has had his say on Rashford briefly, which was good. But I just wanted your opinion, John, on this, because we've sort of heard from everybody else about Rashford in the last few weeks. He's been punished. He's obviously been caught doing something he shouldn't have done. He's apologised. Is that the end of it? Can we move on now? Or do you think there's a bigger issue?
I think, basically agree with what everybody else has been saying. He's been very silly. He's made some very poor decisions this last week or so. I don't think we'll have heard the end of it. I know, Ten Hag's been in the media trying to sort of draw a line under it and trying to get everybody to move on. But with how the media and everything is nowadays, it's very difficult to do. So I think there'll be some more backlash or rumblings happening around it for a while yet, sort of thing. I mean, as Andrew says, the best thing he could do is come off the bench and score the winner tomorrow night to redeem himself like he did down there last season. But I think he needs to have a strong word with himself, and he needs to decide what whether he wants to carry on being a professional footballer, and if his attitude's going to change, and if he's going to carry on, if he's going to have to change if he wants to carry on being a Manchester United player.
Yeah, no, I've got to agree. We had a brief talk about it the last show, and I said something, I can't remember what I said exactly, but it was something along the lines of they drop him for the Newport game, they fine him 2 weeks' wages, they remind him that he plays for Manchester United, and that, well, as Hoop said earlier, the scope's always massive at Manchester United, so you can't get away with that. You can't get away with doing what he's done. And then the issue for me was he lied, so he sort of got caught, lied about it, and hope he'd get away with it, but then got caught again. So, and this is where the problem. I think people are quick to jump to it being a huge issue, but there is definitely a point where Rashford's got to sit down and maybe, I don't know if you agree, Andy, he's got to get some better people around him, help him make some better choices.
Well, I know his inner circle's very small, because I think his brothers are his agents, and a couple of friends he's grown up since through school as well. So I get why he wants a close knit team around and those people he knows, so he doesn't. Maybe you look at that. I don't know, but I was reading something on was it yesterday on the Athletic saying Marcus Rashford is testing the patience, the fans, and fearing he could be wasting his talent. I mean, like I said, we've been patient, and now we're supporting Rashford. Even at the games, there's no criticism, and we just want him to do well and to come good again and be the player who we know he can be, and thrill us at Old Trafford or the away games too. So I just think, what he did was wrong. Yes, he hold his hand up and say former players and other players have done far worse, but then they probably benefit in the past, in a pre-social media world, but whether, it was just paparazzi with their cameras. But let's say, just at the moment, it's all heightened because, Rashford went out, and to be fair, he was visiting a former teammate, so in some ways he was over there seeing a friend and a former teammate, so still showing his loyalty to his friend as well. So just, yes, the Wednesday was an agreed day off. It's just what he did afterwards wasn't agreed. So, like I say, he held his hands up. So, just at the moment, it's because he's not scoring. United are not doing well, so it just makes it look 10 times worse. But, I just believe in Rashford, and, hope he comes good again. So, I just don't want him to waste his talent. There's other players at United, and two of them especially, I think will be gone by the end of the season, in Martial and Sancho. So,
I mean, this is the frustrating for me. So, like, Dave's saying that it's a bigger issue. Something's not right. Maybe he's got too big for his boots. We said on the last show that what drives these players now, because it's not winning big titles and big trophies, because they haven't done it yet. They've won League Cups and stuff, and they've done all right in that aspect. But he's on, I don't even know what he's on anymore, 250k a week. So how is it? Is it more? Is it 275? Don't say it's more than 3. Oh my lord, the state of our club.
More than 3. Hang on, and I'll just double check that, because I think it is slightly more.
I seem to believe he's on 375 a week.
So, like, what is motivating Rashford now? Because if that's 375, that 350, Dave says, it's just mad money, and you could see why he's maybe gone off the boil a little bit, because is Marcus Rashford going to earn more than 350, 375k a week any other club? He's not. And as Dave pointed out, it's not the first time. I gave him a pass on the first one because it was his birthday, and you should be allowed to go out for your birthday. That's just, I'll go out for my birthday when it's work anyway. And the reason I said he lied, NT, is because the PR was that he went out on the Wednesday and then didn't go out the Thursday, but then was ill Friday. But it wasn't true. He went out Wednesday, Thursday, and rang in sick on Friday. So yeah, we'll move on from the Rashford thing. I'm hoping they leave it. The media obviously won't leave it. They'll stick the sells paper, so they keep plugging it. But he's been fine now. We need to move on from it. We need to hope that he gets a little bit of a better entourage around him. So I've got one more question for everybody, and a little bit of fun because we've been linked with. Sorry, we haven't been linked with them. They've been linked with a return. So we start with you, Hoops. Just how much would you like to see Jose Mourinho back in the Premier League?
I do like charismatic managers, so yeah, I'd like to see him. He's one of those that are kind of going Premier League folklore only. So yeah, from a kind of an excitement, he's a little bit more exciting and more charismatic than some of the down managers that we have. So yeah, I'd be all for it.
Do you think he could possibly bring more success? I mean, he's on paper the most successful manager since Fergie retired. Do you think he could bring some short-term success to Man U if we was to take the plunge? And I mean, how much fun would it be to see him going against Arteta, Pep, and whoever Klopp's replacement is?
I don't know. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think there are times and timings, and I think when he first came into English football, his stock was so high, wasn't it? You know, his charisma and his kind of his personality and his infamous sort of, you know, press conference about it being a special one and so forth. And then the success that's followed, and he's kind of been out of the picture a little bit. He's still kind of, when you see him on social media and reports, got that sort of glint in his eye. So, you know, I don't see why not. I don't know. A small one for you guys, really, but it's probably one of those that I wouldn't go back. But that's just mine. But him being in the Premier League as a neutral would be quite exciting because it gives you a little bit more in your post-match press conferences than some of the other managers in the league. So from that point of view, for a little bit of sort of Premier League heritage, then yeah, I'd be for it.
I honestly would just want to see the scrap between the 3 or 4 managers that you would definitely get in arguments with. Come on then, John. Would you have him back, or is it a big no from you?
Yeah, why not? It'd be good. It'd be good for the bit of the banter and TV and everything. And yeah, it'd be good to see him falling out with Guardiola on the touchline and one or two of the others. At least bring a bit of fire back to us, if nothing else. Yeah, it does sound sensational, but in football, these bizarre things do happen sometimes more often than you'd think. So I would definitely wouldn't rule it out.
And NT's definitely ruled it out. No patience for another Mourinho stint. It's unbearable at the end of his last time here. Andy, you're a season ticket holder. Was it that bad?
When I heard that Mourinho was on the return, I was like, oh, come on, please. It was like, I just think, like I say, he wants to work, well, apparently he wants to come back to United, work with the new owners, because he's got unfinished business at United. Felt like he hadn't achieved all that he wanted to achieve. And I just think, as exciting as parts of Mourinho's era was at United, you could look back ultimately, was it the right fit then? And probably still won't be the right fit now. I just felt like if we wanted to get Mourinho, we should have got him after Fergie left. I think that was the time to get him out of Real Madrid, but he didn't want to come. So, but am I surprised that he wants to return? United return? No, but so he's been sacked by Tottenham, Roma, and is Mourinho highly regarded as he once was? Yes, he's a top manager, but I'm just thinking there's other managers that come along now, and I just think you probably take them over him. So let's say I still have faith in Ten Hag. Sorry, Jose. I'm just thinking you're gonna have to look elsewhere for your next job.
I'm of the simple opinion, if we are going to run it back for a manager, it's got to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It can be nobody else, because that guy is the only reason that I continue to follow Man United, because my love was gone under Van Gaal and Mourinho. So if we're running it back for one of them, it's that one. It's got to be, surely.
And under Mourinho, by the time it ended, God, the ship was sinking at United, and Ollie came in and rose that ship up and got it on an even keel. So
I was
thank God
looking at
Ollie
something
came in.
earlier. We scored 114 goals once in a season under Solskjaer. We scored 24. We've scored less than Luton this year. It's absolute madness. Right, so we've done an hour and 15 minutes, which is quite impressive. It's gone really quickly, and I've gone through all my points again, which is quite good. I don't often get through all my points. Hoops, have you got any shows that you like to plug? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I mean, I pop up on the Odd Walls podcast if you do want to have a listen. I guess more so probably post the match as well, just to see, you know, if your kind of view of the game is similar to ours. I'll probably be on Always Walls. You can search that on Twitter. My Twitter handle is ryhoops83, but it's mostly about Wolves. So other than this game, you may or may not want to listen, but you're welcome to follow me. But yeah, Always Wolves is a good Wolves channel, Wolves Fancast. I was part of the Wolves Fancast, and we were the first sort of Fancast for Wolves back in the League One days. And now there's like 7 or 8, as you probably know. Now there's loads from everywhere. So, but yeah, I'm mostly on social media at ryhoops83. Should you wish to follow, you're more than welcome. I'll be at the game tomorrow night with my dad. I'm a season ticket holder, so I just realised it was 8:15 kickoff. I had in my head it was 7:45, one of those ridiculous times. So, but fortunately, I'm not too far away from the ground. So, yeah, I'm hoping obviously for a good evening tomorrow. But no, appreciate it. It's always good talking football. So. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you on. We wish you absolutely no luck for tomorrow, obviously. Fingers crossed it's a defeat, but I just don't see it. I really don't see it. I didn't realise it was 8:15 kickoff myself, to be honest. I thought it was 8 o'clock, so we're right in the middle there. Yeah. So they're all over the place at the minute, aren't they? The football tonight's been amazing. I swear to God, if Darwin Núñez don't score, I'm going to scream. I've got him in my dream team. He's at the post from a penalty. He's at the post in the first half. He's just hit the crossbar. I've never seen anything like it in my life. He is so unlucky when it comes to football. So we'll call it quits there. And obviously, I'm trying to think when we're back. Andy, do you know when we're back? Is it Friday? It's Friday, isn't it?
I think so. I think that's what.
Yeah, I'm going to say Friday.
Said.
I'm sure. Yeah, we're reviewing we're reviewing the game on Friday. So obviously, jump back and join us on there. Then we got a game on Sunday.
West Ham.
Then we got a game on Sunday. So I think we're previewing it Saturday night, and then we're back for the review on Sunday. So it's a busy days. I'm not going to be on Saturday because I'm engaged otherwise, but I will be on Friday. Good luck for tomorrow. It's been a cracking show. I genuinely hope that I'm completely wrong about what I've said on today, and that it's not going to be as bad as I'm expecting. Even though I said 1-0, I really, really hope we win. But yeah, so we'll call it quits there. I appreciate you all dropping on, and we'll see you on the next one.